Hello and welcome to the consolidation report for the period between February 2014 to March 2014. As always, this is the eighth consolidation report, and this is I'm going to include data from the 1st of February 2014 to the 31st of March 2014, just approaching here. So I'm going to be talking about. As usual, it'll be a three-part report. The first part will go through the awards, which I give at the end of each 2-month period. And the second part will be a day-by-day breakdown of every single video that I've produced over the 2 months. And the third part will be my favourite build from the 2-month period. So, we'll start with the awards then. And so the Diamond Block I'm going to give here to the very strong start of the Blood and Bone series, accruing over 1,000 views between the 4 videos in less than a month with sustained viewing times. The Blood and Bone series has really been the standout video on the channel, on my channel, for the last 2 months. Very good kind of search performance, very good performance in general, with thousands of minutes watched. In total, maybe it's 6,000 or 7,000. But yeah, to get very high early figures and very long viewing times, especially for the first part, which is almost about 650 after about 3.5 weeks, is very promising. And also, it's actually my most successful series, which has been a kind of series based on the actual mod pack itself. Since actually since I did Magic World back in the period December 2012 to January 2013. So that's very good as well. And you'll see during the course of the video how that's affected and made some changes to what I've been doing in the last few weeks. The gold block, once again, there was another most views in a single day, and that was 303 on the 8th of March, which beat the record of 277, which was only set very in the beginning of the year, on the 19th of January. So that was very pleasing, of course, to get that. Now we have the iron block, and listen, last month there only been 16 new subscribers and a record 51 likes. So that's I think that's quite a lot, I think, in terms of, because it went from 81 to 97. So and I believe we're looking at something like, it was about 128% increase of subscribers, and around about maybe 30 or 50. The likes have been getting noticeably higher in general, and it's just so that's pretty good to get a noticeably higher number of likes. And there were actually an unlikely amount of likes on the Blood and Bones series. So and the Stone Block finally, overall views increased from around 6,000 to 6,700. So moderate increase, but still very pleasing to do that, seeing as before I was at a much lower figure than that, between barely over 3,000. So to go from 6,000 to 6,700 is it's very good. So with that in mind, we're going to move now on to the next. Okay, so now we're going to focus on the data analysis. So the first one is the Withers Challenge Part 2. So it was on the 1st of February. So in that episode, I think it didn't go too well. I did die a few times, but I was able to kind of get a lot of levels and stuff, and a lot of items, so that it made my subsequent progress a lot easier, which was good. Then we went to Herobrine's Return Part 6. I've been working on this map for a while. Obviously, in the earlier months, I only do 2 or 4 of the videos a year, something which I'm going to be alluding to later But yeah, it just seems to be yeah, just need to carry it on, and it's a fun map to do. I think Withers Challenge is a more exciting map, and the story. I mean, the story of Herobrine's Return is interesting, but obviously it's obviously an important map, so I wanted to do it, and yeah, so that's going well. Then I moved on to MFS Calclavia. So this is obviously a kind of a more modern version of MFS. Looked at various different modules. I did sort of things with creating bridges. Look at the field fusion module, which combines two different force fields into one, which is quite an interesting block. And I also looked at the camouflage module. So they were kind of like a block guide, fairly kind of just I don't know, just interesting, interesting blocks, interesting to work with the force fields. Previous time I did that, of course, I never actually did too much more on the original MFFS, apart from that one video that was pretty successful. But aside from that, yeah, there hasn't been too much more on that. But I definitely look to revisit MFFS at some point. As you can see, this is kind of like a period where I did quite a lot of the same thing multiple days in a row. So whether that will be something that I maintain, I'm not sure, but we'll see. Then we moved to agriculture. I've done a few of these. I've done a few food mods. I suppose Harborcraft. Probably going to do magical crops soon as well as Food Plus. So we'll see. But they're fun. They're fun to do, and agriculture is a fun mod. Kind of. I think it's linked with metallurgy actually. That's something else I want to do. But yeah, we'll get into that in a moment. Yeah, so I looked at various, looked at the brewer and processor ceramic cup. So yeah, this is a very that's an interesting application of clay as well. Clay is a very, very important item, and I think it's just becoming increasingly important, especially the fact you can cook clay up and it becomes ceramic. That's an interesting thing because it means that there's a lot of possibilities that that clay would just become an increasingly important item. Yeah, and that's definitely something to. I think there may actually be, maybe it's your Harvestcraft thing, clay spawn I might need to do as well. So yeah, I'll definitely have to look into that. Clay is becoming increasingly important in terms of in that kind of area of the mod pack scene sort of thing. All right, so then we have. So there's agriculture, yeah. Okay, so then we have Tech World. Okay, so yeah, this was an interesting series. I'm not quite sure really what I did here. I made 9 parts and they were very long. I probably spent about a ridiculous amount of time, really, probably about 7 or 8 hours. I think I just wanted to play the game at this point. Yeah, I mean, I did have a. Funnily enough, the reason I actually started that it was actually because I wanted to build an arch, and it was an arch I particularly liked. I think it was 5, 3, 3, 2, 1, 1, and then there were 3 along the top, and then you'd have 1, 1, and then the 2, 3, 3, and then the 5 on down the other side. It was a cool arch. And since I was actually doing a bit of research for this video, I was actually thinking that I possibly could do something like a 13 by 7 as well. Because 13 by 7 is the sort of thing I want to make, a sort of thing that I always make a 13 by 7. So I'm actually curious how that could possibly fit in. Because of course the arch is going to be an odd length because there's 3 at the top. But yeah, I need to actually. I'm gonna at some point. I'll put down the arch right next to a 30 by 7. I want to see how it looks. Because if I can have some sort of like prefabricated concept of the style of the thing I want to build, it makes things a lot easier, and it gives me a lot more options as well in terms of possible survival series. But like I say, it's not. It's not. I mean, yeah, I'll speak about this in a moment. There's plenty more to talk about there. So yeah, so this tech world stuff, and then of course I did in the middle of those tech world episodes, did chemistry and electronics. Um, did a bit of graphing actually for once, with terms of the successful ionization energies and some of the chemistry stuff. So it was nice to do a bit of graphing, nice to do some electronics. We're still at very very basic stages with both those subjects, so but that's not a problem. It's something which I enjoy doing in the middle of each month to yeah, to balance out the content. And I enjoyed doing this Tech World series as well. In the end, I mean, the things that I did that were useful in the Tech World series is that well, first of all, I saw good application of the slag furnace, the factorization furnace. Factorization is actually a mod which I did very, very early on. It was one of the very first mods I did, factorization. And it's got a real kind of mathematical flair, that mod, and I really enjoy it. And there's some very, very interesting items in that mod that I guess that's why I did it so early on, because it really must have appealed, or perhaps it just had a mathematical name and that appealed. But either way, that was very good to do. And yeah, and you see actually, it helped me have a very early game setup. One of the things that I've been doing a lot of this period is kind of thinking, what is my early game setup? Because you can't because obviously I've been doing, it's going through the mod normally in creative mode, and going through the items, going through blocks, making a structure. But I mean, there is a possibility I could do a survival series, but it doesn't seem particularly likely, really. It seems impossible at this stage to actually do that. It doesn't really, it's because of the fact that by the time you get to a certain episode number, it becomes negligible, the kind of attention it's getting, which is pointless, really. And further to that as well, and perhaps more importantly than that, if you do it like that, you find that it actually hinders your actual learning and progression through the mods. And especially in 1.6.4, there's been a lot of mods, a lot more items have been added, and I think something's going to change for 1.7 there. I think 1.7 it'll be slower and perhaps it might be, rather than just this huge abundance of items, it might be slightly different. We'll see though. We'll see. I certainly have got a way to go with 1.6.4 there, even despite 1.7. So yeah, so I was able to do this, and of course we've got Red Power in the in Tech World 1. One of the reasons I actually did it is because I didn't have any videos in the playlist for Tech World. That was probably the main reason, if I'm being honest, I suppose. But yeah. So yeah, I used project tables. I used a mortar. That was a Greg Tech item. One of the very few early game Greg Tech items. I wouldn't have known that otherwise there. And then yeah, there's a clay sculpture. It's a factorization object, which seems to be like the sort of almost like the ancestor of the block deformation apparent in the carpenter's blocks, which was quite interesting actually. And yeah, so there's that. I did some stuff with the microlugs. Tried to. I kind of. It was a lot of building. It was nice. I just wanted to do some building really. And at the end, I did make a coke oven, but beyond that, there wasn't a huge amount of stuff that I really did in that pack. But it was fun nonetheless. And sometimes I just like to play that, just dig a few hundred blocks. I think that's a very kind of that's just the way of Minecraft really. Anyway, so now after that, and one of the things that really characterized this period was that this was a much more kind of I guess this was almost like a research period, because after all the after I'd really kind of I've done a lot of stuff in the beginning of the year. I wanted to get a very, very strong handle on the mods, and I wanted to try to look at some of the ones which perhaps I knew would be recurring themes in the future. And yeah, and I was well aware that there were certain mods which were kind of really gaining a lot of traction and very likely to be very popular in the future. Mechanism is one which has been around for a while, and of course I've been aware of it for a long time because universal electricity has been around for a while. But there's a lot more. It's a very modular system. There's a resonant induction. There's generators. There's all sorts of things which are, and they're very very good. So I wanted to really get in on that, and the item I decided to start with there was the digital miner. Yeah, so there's some nice jetpacks there as well, and there's also regular expression filtering functionality similar to NEI. So yeah, so I got a good handle on digital miner, and it was good. The logistical transport, of course, of the pipes there. Now, after that, yeah, I did just something on dyes. That was a fun episode to do. It was very convoluted and messy, but one of those episodes I just really really enjoyed doing, and it was very fun for me. Got all the dyes available, and also did everything with the sheep breeding. I possibly could have called that basic dyes. I was considering doing this stuff with leather armor, but that was a bit too complicated and not something that I really wanted to get into. And I think you can't always get into that. If you're going to get into binary arithmetic, you've got to be kind of serious about what you're doing there. Anyway, so the next thing I did was Ender IO. Now, one of the interesting things is that there's certainly a real kind of buzz around Ender IO, around remote IO, around extra cells, and also to some extent around like rotary craft and reactor craft, and I wanted to kind of see what's going on here. So yeah, and to be honest, I only really scratched the surface. This is something I'm going to have to return to very very soon, I think. But I looked at the painting machine. I looked at how you can put animated textures on blocks. Very very cool. And of course, there's now painted stone as well in 172. This idea of using painting, and one of the reasons I did dyes as well, because this is really how it seems to be going. Quite what's going on with that, I'm not sure. Possibly there will be. I think probably the way it's going is what I just alluded to with the leather armor stuff. More colours basically. But yeah, that was very very good. The was it a Yetta wrench? Yeah. Which lets you see through stuff, and there's all this sort of Ender is very very cool. There's all sorts of it's almost like a forged multi-part with the idea of doing multiple things within a single block, like of course little blocks, Gulliver's Mod, and all that stuff. Little blocks are what I'm thinking of really. But yeah, that idea has not gone away. That idea is probably is one of the most interesting things, and whether that will be it's an interesting time anyway for a lot of these different mods. And then I did Highlands. Now with this Highlands episode, I actually built a house, and that was actually the first episode I decided it was going to be 13x7. So I made the 13x7 house, and yeah, it just went very well. That episode I researched a lot. For some reason I really like the Highlands terrain, and I just wanted to research as much as I could. So I wrote huge sprawling text on that, and it just went incredibly well. And yeah, I mean, yeah. So that was that. It, all the mountainous stuff, and I wrote a very detailed description on that. As you can see here, it's probably one of my longest descriptions ever. Actually, just keeps on going. Yeah, I think this must be. Yeah, I wrote a huge description on it. But I did so much research for it that I wanted to. It was a great. I after the biomes of plenty when I literally just went to the promised land. Extra biomes originally I didn't do a huge amount. It was just looking at the things. Funnily enough, there was actually a time earlier, a few months ago, where I was planning on using the CameraCraft portal system to be able to go to every different biome and then talk about the temperature and humidity. It's something that I really want to do, because it's one of the things which I almost wish was added by mods to the F3 menu, where you could just see the temperature and humidity of all different biomes. It's one of those things that you just can't see, and I want to see it. So these biome ones, I really would like to do it. I still got a couple more to do. I've got underground biomes, and also cave control as well is also actually a biome generation thing. But yeah, I've done Highlands, biomes of plenty, Twilight Forest, and extra biomes, and I haven't done alternate terrain generation though, so I have to do that. I really would like to be able to do the yeah. I mean, a couple of things I would like to do is I would love to be able to get the be able to use a PNG to actually generate the world, and yeah, so I wouldn't mind doing that. Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, the standard alternate terrain generation is still pretty cool. But that was available right at the beginning actually of 1.6.4. Okay, so then I moved on to Redstone Basics 6. Yeah, so I found a pretty good way of doing this, and I want to use and the kind of language I'm using is very structured. There's power, there's transmission, there's mechanism. Yeah, and this vertical transmission issue, I'm gonna have to look into that. But in the past I've read so many articles which constantly mention this issue, so I probably in a way I've probably read something about it which I just can't quite remember. But yeah, I've seen it so many times that unfortunately in a recent episode I was able to really understand exact difference, especially with having buttons on top of blocks. I think that's actually going to facilitate. That's actually going to be very, very helpful. That particular feature that's just come in recently. Okay, so after that we move on to March. So in March we started with the Withers Challenge. Went a bit easier there. Now, what I want to do, yeah, and Withers Challenge went fine. Now, because obviously in the previous month I had done a lot of work, so. And then I did Logic 1. Now this is a big change. So this is actually the first time I've actually done this. Not the first time, of course, that I've done a video without any Minecraft content, but it's the first time actually in the period where there should be maps, I've actually done something different. Well, the thing is, I think, is that the amount of maps that are coming out, I think, is progressively decreasing. It may not always be like this, but it seems to me that the amount of maps keeps decreasing, because while in the past there was a real, loads of them, it seems to be a lot less, and also and that's basically it, I suppose. So and also I suppose I really want to do this stuff. I want to do logic, and I want to do a lot of this kind of try and get a bit more into this computer science stuff. So yeah, I'm thinking. So I did that instead. All right. So next we had Blood and Bones. Okay. So this just went. This just went very, very well. Yeah. I mean, just saw the mod pack. Thought let's just do it straight away. And that was probably it. Probably was. It was one of the very first ones to do, and I did. And I just felt like doing it at the time, possibly because in the previous month I'd been sort of, not really going through all the mods, doing hundreds of different types of videos, but yeah. So at the beginning of this month, I just did it. Part one was instantly very popular. So then, and what I actually was able to do with part two was to um, I realised that it's probably likely that part three would be more popular than part two, because that's just how it tends to go. So I made sure I just completely, well, I mean, I say I made sure, but really it was almost, it was an accident. Part two, I somehow at the beginning of that video I managed to do a run in a boat, which was just it was you know, it's unbelievable sort of precision with terms of the like the trajectory I was getting with the boat, because normally I can barely even drive, you know, well, not drive, control the boat. But in just you know, in a very kind of rare instance, I just got a completely precise run. So, and then that ended up and made that a 9 minute video. So, and part two is actually still more popular than part three, which wouldn't have happened if I had just done it a normal. If they'd all just been 30 minutes long, part three would be way more popular than part two. But yeah, I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. It's to do with the odd thing, the odd numbers that are favoured over even numbers. That's just how it works. But yeah, so and then I did part four, and by the time part four came out, I had several more parts actually that I could have uploaded, but I at the time I didn't want to. And yeah, I really did a lot. I was playing for hours with when Blood and Bones came out. It was kind of like, it was pretty cool actually. But yeah, I mean, I just didn't do any more after that, in terms of those four parts, because I knew that it was going to be, you know, it was going to keep on. I didn't want, you know, sometimes when it's just one of those things. When the going was good, I'm not going to just carry on until it gets crap. So that was what I thought. I just thought, you know, keep it as it is. And it was good because I got to see this, you know, all this stuff with, you know, there was Glenn's gases, I think, in there. There's a couple of mods actually who've got gas emitting blocks, and of course Minechem 5 as well is out now. And I only did Minechem 2 way back, many months ago now. So it gave me a good thing, and I got to see a lot of special mobs. Special mobs is very prevalent in that pack, and there's some very very kind of it's all the sort of cool stuff in that pack that perhaps is not going to be ever really part of main stuff, but it was just a sort of a cool underground thing to do. It's got a cool name, and it worked out well for me, and that's good, you know. It was cool to do that. It worked out nicely. And then I did Dragon API. That's on the 7th, and that was kind of it's just a book which has got all the different mods there. That went pretty well. Just talked about all the different mods, and yeah, there's a few different ones I'm going to work on besides Rotary Craft, of course, Die Trees and Geostrata, Cave Control, of course. But it's going to try, you know, like I say, I mean, realistically, the aim is to carry on doing all of them, really. And then I did particle physics, and that is actually going to be what's going to come up right at the end of this video, because that was really cool. It was a way to put in coal, and then you could turn it into split particle and a compressed particle. And there's further stuff that I didn't do with different types of particle, but it was very, very cool, very, very fun, and it was something which I massively enjoyed actually. And yeah, it was very fun to do that one. I really enjoyed that. And like I say, I'll be focusing on that and Mindchem. I think they're part of the same. I think maybe they're part of the same sort of package now. I'm not sure though. And then the day after that, this was quite an exciting time actually. The beginning of March here. The day after that, we had Painted Stone, and what that really meant was that 172, first mod pack, had come out. And because of the nature of it, it wasn't the sort of, you know, it wasn't like when 164 came out, because 164, it really was like, whoa, there's so much here. Paint, it's very bare bones, the 172 stuff. And if you look at the how far they're in doing it, it's very low percentage at the moment. But yeah, and I didn't really cover that properly, but it was just amazing being in the mods in 172. Just really enjoyable. For some reason, NEI I don't think is working properly there. But I've actually I'm definitely going to keep revisiting that. Whether I can do a survival series in that is difficult because it's very difficult with all the world updates, and I've still got so much to do in 164. But like I said, but at the time I just wanted to do everything straight away, and it was the perfect time for all this stuff to come because I was just ready for it after kind of taking it easy for the previous month. And then I started thinking, should I just do these new survival series? And this is actually something we're going to see even very recently. And it seems to, and I feel like there's probably going to be so many different mod packs that I almost may as well just do a load of them. Could be quite cool. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I guess just do that really. Could be pretty cool, but now the New World mod pack is pretty cool because it's got extra biomes in it, which I like. Anyway, and it's got Millionaire, which is a mod that I covered earlier. It's also got I think it's Ancient Warfare. Might be that. Which I haven't covered yet. That might be quite difficult to cover, but I did manage to cover Millionaire, so I suppose I can find some way to do that as well. I know that does have its own world structures, but you see, something like that is perhaps suited, because you almost have to think some of these things actually are very much suited to a survival environment. But again, I'll probably review my Millionaire mod, see how I did that. But yeah, it's a very cool mod pack. There's a lot of nice ores and underground biomes, of course, is in that mod pack. And underground biomes is very nice, very good, the whole Swiss cheese, underground caving systems. Okay, so then we moved on to mechanisms, part 3 and 4. Well, this was really, this was pretty interesting. I'm not quite sure what happened on part 3. I think I probably got a little bit excited for part 3. It was because I was just trying to cram all the information in, I guess. And I did make it was quite it was a bit louder than my normal videos, I suppose. Normally I try to have a kind of quite chill, but then sometimes I do like to have that loud video as well, because you've got the loud video, sometimes it breaks everything up, to have, most of the videos are quite nice and chilled, and then have one where it's just just being kind of loud and kind of aggressive, and that's kind of nice to have that dichotomy there. And that's basically what happened there. And yeah, and I made a sorting system as well. Part 4. You see, the thing is, because I got so sort of worked up in part 3, I actually filmed part 4 later in the day, and at that point I was much more, and I was able to do the sorting system quite well. It was about, yeah, and the sorting system went very well. A very good sorting system, actually. And I kind of realised just how interesting mechanism is with that sorting system, because you can do multiple sort of adding these headers and stuff to things. It's very, very interesting. So that was nice to do that, and really get a foothold into mechanism. Okay, so after that we have. Well, I did 4 days of maths and one. The problem was that because of the nature of the way that I do it, I've realised that everything from like 11 to 20, I'm going to have to do differently to 1 to 10. But just because I do 5 every month, and obviously it's the whole multiples of 4 thing with terms of how often the recap episode happens. So if I'd done anyway, I couldn't have done it anyway. There's going to be an episode 12 in both biology and maths. So I thought, right, from 11 to 20, I'm just going to change it around, do a 4 to 1 rather than the 3 to 2, which I've been doing for the 1 to 10 episodes, and which I'll continue to do. it's just going to make things a lot easier. Um, and I made a very long video. My longest video, I think, I've made 1 hour 46 minutes on maths 12, I think it was, and I just really did a lot of it, and just yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think just that day I thought, yeah, let's just do a load of maths, and it's nice to have that feeling when you just want to do a load of maths. Um, and yeah, and honestly, that's the thing. I just really enjoy maths. you know, not always, I suppose. Once it starts getting to other types of maths, problem solving, I suppose, and I'm not enjoying it quite so much. But when it's just straight up maths, then I much prefer it. Problem solving is hard, and that's probably why I'm doing logic and do all this sort of stuff. Try and get better at problem solving, because I kind of know that that's not something that I'm particularly good at. But you've got to keep on trying at these things. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so, and then yeah, biology as well. So do a bit more biology. But yeah, obviously the way that these between 11 and 20 is going to work with these episodes is that really the real focus is going to. I'm going to say this time. This is the this, for instance, this time is the maths. The time did maths. Then it'll be the same for electronics and chemistry and biology in the months to come. Okay. Then we did Mad Science Part 1. So yeah, this was pretty interesting actually. For some reason, I decided to get out a Desert Eagle, and actually, I haven't actually watched it back, but I have a feeling my gunplay was not actually too bad. So that was pretty good actually. So there's actually I was actually looking up some of the blocks for Mad Science and items, and there actually are some guns in there. I quite like it actually. I wasn't sure I was going to like it, but I was looking through it. Now, which ones do I want to, because sometimes I look through the mods and I think, which ones do I want to take out? Which ones, could potentially be awkward and when I don't want to do them, and all this sort of stuff. I thought, yeah, just do this Mad Science. Who knows what's going on with it, and like, and it's turned out to be really fun. It's like it's all this sort of mix with like, and I like and I suppose with the advanced genetics as well. And there's a bit of there's all this different stuff and like Mind Factory Reloaded, which is and changing all this stuff around and putting more additions to effects and and changing mobs and then the whole mad and then yeah, it's all pretty cool because with advanced genetics which is coming up in a moment as well. Yeah, you do that thing where you inject yourself and you get more powers. And there's this whole process of combining and splitting and analyzing first probably, but yeah, it's pretty cool though, and how that's actually going to fit in with the whole the sort of traditional systems. It's going to be pretty cool to see how that works. So yeah, so this was it was pretty simple really. I was kind of just kind of pissing around really with the Mad Science mod, but I will do an episode. I'll do a proper thing of that. In fact, with Advanced Genetics, the first episode was pretty much pissing around as well. And like I say, this time I made sure, when I say explain the process change from hard scale to JTG, that was just one of those episodes that just went absolutely perfectly. Sometimes you just do an episode and you don't, I don't like to do the things where I'm setting out the blocks beforehand, and all this. I like to have everything in my inventory and try to not to set out the blocks beforehand. But yeah, it's just one of those ones that went perfectly, and it was so much information that I managed to provide there, and did it in a kind of pretty simple way. Yeah, but the funny thing is probably even if it had been part 1, it probably wouldn't have been. It's one of those things really. It's like part 1 is going to be far more popular, even though there's much less skill involved, and that is often the way that you have to be. Sometimes you just have to have this very amateurish approach, and kind of get a lot of things wrong if you want the video to be successful. Otherwise, it's not going to be. But then sometimes you do get some. But the reality is, but then of course you have to get those people that are going to watch you more and all this sort of stuff. It's just absurd the amount of confusing stuff that comes along. That's why you can't even. It's almost impossible to think about it. And I tend not to really think about it that much because it's just there's no way you can even possibly hope to understand how it works. All you can do is sort of don't know. I just don't. You just have to not even think about it, and and go for an instinctive approach. Okay, so and then I did rotary craft. So rotary craft, I actually did 6 parts here, 7 parts, and yeah, and it just went pretty well. I went through the basics of rotary craft. One of the problems with the shaft junction, I was just failing to understand the difference between inline and bend with the shaft gears. And eventually, I realised it was a 31-to-1 ratio. And I did a lot of stuff with the gearbox. I did the bevel gears. So basically, I started off. I looked at the magic wand because that was in part 1. I'd looked at the world edit tool, and then I got the magic wand there as well. So I looked at those sort of creative tools first. Reservoir as well was interesting. It could, I guess you can have 64 blocks of water, 64 buckets of water in the one block space. And yeah, and did the blast furnace. And yeah, so it was quite a modern version I used. And so that went pretty well. And yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be very, very important, something like that. There's also actually, I believe, something in mechanism which is similar, which involves gears, at least anyway. So this thing with gears and cogs and stuff, I mean, obviously it's going to be big, I think. And I think there's been several things that have occurred before. But yeah, it seems obviously, kinematics, machinery, all that stuff is going to be very, very kind of key. And I think it's probably going to have even more of a long-term significance than even the whole space stuff. The space stuff is almost tenuous at this point. Because space stuff is realistically the science behind it is incredibly difficult, whereas for cogs and gears and all this kind of machinery is it's certainly simpler. So yeah, so I think we're going to see a lot of that, and that's why I wanted to spend a lot of time on the very basics. Okay. And I did a couple, and I decided to do this new series, Redstone Building. I didn't actually call it that, I only just renamed it now. But yeah, and yeah, so the Redstone Building stuff was yeah. I'm just going to try to. So I've got Redstone Basics, Applied Redstone, and Redstone Building. And this is, of course, is all something that I changed from previously as well. But I think now I've actually got the right balance. Because this way I can do the building stuff, which is kind of basically Redstone Buildings is almost like just messing about. Redstone Basics, I'm being very clear about the definition of the blocks. Applied Redstone, I'm applying the knowledge I have in a very specific manner. So we've got learn. So it's basically learning is the Redstone Basics, yeah. Applied Redstone is applying the knowledge in a specific manner. Redstone Building is pissing around. So that seems to be, after a kind of a pretty long amount of time trying to work out how to actually learn this stuff, that seems to be the approach. I possibly could have come to that conclusion earlier, but I didn't. And then finally we have now here we go. We've got the so what I wanted to do is I wanted to get into I basically. Yeah, I mean, obviously the whole thing with the part 1s, I wanted to just do a lot of these things. So I started with a Sky Factory farm a couple of days ago, and I was doing the thing, just getting silkworms from using, I think it's Exa Nihilo, and I think there's also Exa Liquo. Yeah, it's just a couple of interesting mods that are there for early game stuff, and so I did that on 29th, and then the 30th. I tried this hardcore quest mod, and I found it to be very, very good. Because if I want to learn all this stuff, it's like one of the things is if you want to learn a lot of stuff. One of the things I've always kind of believed if you want to learn a lot of stuff, and then suddenly there's an in-game system to learn all that stuff. You may as well take advantage of it. So and I wasn't really expecting that with the hardcore quest mod, but it is very good indeed, and it's going to be and to be able to learn all the stuff, because one of the things I haven't focused on and which I really will have to do is the fact that Thorncraft 4, Ars Magica 2, Blood Magic as well. That's in 172. I have not focused on them at all. I did a few episodes of Blood Magic, and I have fortunately I've written down most of the mod So I would probably able to get that done quite fast. But this, for one thing, it's changed in 1.7.2, and another important thing is that Thorncraft 4 has got some new additions as well. So there's lots of things I need to think about at the moment, but we'll have to just carry on and do that. And yeah, and then of course the consolidation report. Yeah. So that in mind, let's move on to the final section of the video. Okay, to conclude this video, we're going to try to do this again. I'll be honest though, this is pretty hard to do. It took me a while to do, so we're going to have to see. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, and then we want this to be the place where it's actually going to come in. And we want it to come in from the side here. Let's get some grass. Yeah, so we're going to have 1, 2, 3 here, and then this is going to be where we're coming. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3 here, and then we're going to have. All right, so we need to get the split particle first. Let's work on that first. Don't want it to go there. We want it to come out here. Okay. Let's try this configuration to start with. Bit of coal, bit of clay. Looks good. There we go, there's our split particle. Now, we want to get the alright, so let's try it. I mean, I may even be able to get a better setup here, possibly. And so this is going to be where we're going to want to be looking. We're not going to want this to interfere though, so we're going to put that there. And we're going to block off all these sides. Just to make the pathways more obvious here. Alright. So let me just check again, rather. So we've got the split particle here. Okay. So now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want the okay. So the spot that we're going to need it to be at. So this is 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. This is the spot we're going to need it to be at. And we're going to want it to come in from here. So 1, 2, 3. Sometimes you do need to put it one further back, I've found there. And then it's going to be kind of a diagonal line. 1, 2. Something like this. Let's try this. Sounds quite nice, but it might not be correct. Yeah. We'll see. No, nothing's coming through. Now, I did find if I move this back one, sometimes we've got a bit of work. What was this one? That was clay. Let's have a look. Yeah. All right. So there's that's basically what we did in the other episode. So yeah. So that's it for this consolidation report. So thanks for watching.